I thought it was the cry of a wounded child. That thin, desperate sound. It cut through the forest like a blade. It was late morning. The kind of day where the sun warms your back and everything smells like moss and pine. I was on my way to the old watchtower. It's deep in the woods, where no cell towers reach, and most people don't bother going anymore. My dad and I used to spend summers out here. Just the two of us and the wind. I came alone this time. Brought a small pack, my old jacket, some food, water, a knife. It was supposed to be 3 days of silence. No emails, no roads, just trees and the sound of birds fighting over nothing. But on the second hour of my hike, I heard that cry. High-pitched, repeated, close enough to be real. At first, I froze. It sounded like something in pain, something small. I took a step off the trail, then another. The sound came from down a slope, where the pine trees thinned out and sunlight poured through like a spotlight. I slipped once, caught myself, brushed dirt off my palms, and kept moving. The sound grew sharper, faster, like it knew someone was near. Then I saw it. A tiny lynx cub, hanging by its armpits from a patch of roots, too weak to climb, too tired to drop. Its paws didn't touch the ground. Its head dangled. Its mouth opened and closed as it mewed, quiet, strained, like the sound was dying in its throat. I didn't move for a second. My brain refused to catch up. Blood covered the fur on its neck. Not fresh, but not old either. Flies had started to gather. I swallowed. I stepped forward slowly. It didn't struggle. It didn't even look at me. Just that half-silent cry, like its body still hoped someone would come. I slid my hands under its chest, lifted gently. It didn't weigh much, maybe like a loaf of bread. Its limbs just hung. I could feel the tremble in its ribs. The eyes blinked slowly, unfocused. One ear twitched. I looked around. Nothing. No signs of a mother. No tracks. No fresh kill nearby. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet. The way it gets when something goes wrong. I sat down on a dry patch of ground, the cub still in my hands. My heart pounded. I'd never held a wild animal like this before. Not one so fragile. I looked at its wound. A gash on the side of the neck, maybe from a branch or a bite. No way to tell. The fur was matted, and the skin beneath was red and raw. It let out another cry, softer now. I had no first aid kit, just some water and a clean t-shirt. I wet the cloth, dabbed gently. The cub twitched, but didn't resist. I spoke without thinking. You're okay. You're okay, little one. I've got you. It wasn't okay. I knew that. I could feel its heartbeat. Fast, uneven. I looked back up the slope. I couldn't carry it to the tower and leave it alone. But I also couldn't leave it here. I checked my pack. A spare scarf. I could wrap it, keep it close. But then what? There was no vet out here. No signal. I'd have to hike out. At least 3 hours back to the road, maybe more. But if I waited, it might not make it through the night. It mewed again. Quieter. Like it was running out of sound. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 15. Birds started singing again somewhere up the hill. I looked at the cub. It looked at me. And in that moment, it felt like I was the only person in the world who knew it was alive. I had two options. Walk away and pretend I never saw it. Or stay, try to help, and risk making things worse. I stood up, still holding it. All right, I whispered. All right, we'll figure this out. Its eyes closed for a second. I could feel its breath against my wrist. Time was running out. I held the lynx cub close to my chest, wrapped in my scarf, and started back up the slope. The air felt heavier now, like the forest itself knew something was wrong. The sun had shifted, casting longer shadows, and the warm breeze had turned cold. I knew I didn't have much daylight left. Back at the trail, I scanned the woods for a spot to set up camp. There was no way I'd make it to the watchtower carrying this little one. I found a small clearing under a large spruce tree, shielded from above. The ground was dry, and there were plenty of pine needles for some insulation. I laid down my jacket, the old army one my dad gave me years ago, and gently placed the cub on it. It didn't move much, but its eyes were still open. That was something. I opened my pack. All I had was a half-filled water flask, a granola bar, a flashlight, and my knife. No meds. No bandages. I wet a corner of the t-shirt again and tried to clean the wound more carefully. The blood had dried and crusted into the fur. The cub winced slightly, but again, didn't fight. You're tougher than you look, I whispered. It blinked slowly. I poured a few drops of water into the cap and brought it to its mouth. For a second, nothing. Then the tongue flicked out. It drank. Weakly, but it drank. That's when I started hoping. The sky darkened fast. The clouds rolled in heavy, dark gray with a deep rumble behind them. Thunderstorms in these woods come fast and hit hard. I knew I had maybe 30 minutes before the rain hit. I broke some branches, made a lean-to using the low spruce branches and my jacket draped between them. It wasn't perfect, but it would keep most of the rain off. I tucked the cub underneath, curled in the scarf, and sat close, shielding the opening with my body. Then it started. First a few drops, then sheets of cold rain slashing through the trees. I stayed crouched, shivering, my back soaking wet. The cub let out a sound, a raspy, breathy mew. I reached in and gently touched its head. It didn't flinch. Hang on, little one. Just hang on. The hours dragged. I couldn't sleep. I watched the cub's chest rise and fall, uneven and shallow. The rain eased around midnight, replaced by silence that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like something waiting. I must have dozed off at some point, sitting upright, back against the tree. When I opened my eyes, the sky was a dull gray. Early dawn. The cub was gone. I shot up, heart hammering. The scarf was still there. No blood, no signs of a struggle. Just empty. Hey, I shouted into the trees. Hey, nothing. The forest stayed silent. I spun around, checked the perimeter, looked for paw prints, but the rain had wiped everything clean. Panic settled in like ice. What if it dragged itself off to die? What if something took it? What if I failed? I grabbed my flashlight and knife and began moving through the woods, sweeping the beam low, calling softly. Hey, it's okay. I'm still here. Come on. Please. Every shadow looked like movement. Every snapped twig made my gut twist. I searched for an hour, maybe more. The sun started to rise, casting golden light through the mist. Then I heard it. Faint. Like a broken wind-up toy. That same half-cry from the day before. I ran. Down the slope, past a patch of ferns, I found it. Curled in the crook of a fallen log. Soaked. Shivering. Eyes half-lidded. Barely breathing. Oh God, I knelt beside it. You're all right. I got you. It didn't resist as I lifted it again. It felt even lighter now. The warmth was almost gone from its body. I pressed it against my chest, trying to share my heat. I climbed back to the clearing, placed it under the jacket again, this time closer to me. I fed it more drops of water. I talked to it like it could understand. You're not going to die out here. Not alone. Not like this. It blinked. That blink. That slow, lazy blink. It felt like hope again. But I knew now, hope wasn't enough. Not anymore. By morning, the lynx cub was still breathing, but just barely. Its eyes opened when I shifted next to it, but they didn't focus. There was no strength in its limbs. I tried giving it more water. It swallowed, but only a few drops. It didn't fear me anymore. That instinct to flinch, to run, it was gone. Maybe it had accepted me, or maybe it just didn't have anything left. I sat back against the tree, the cub resting against my leg, and let the fear creep in. What if I was just delaying the inevitable? What if, by trying to help, I was making it worse? I remembered something my dad used to say. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a suffering animal is to let it go. But I couldn't. Not yet. I thought about the old shortwave radio he had at the tower. It hadn't worked the last time we were here, but maybe it still had a signal. Maybe someone nearby was listening. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. The tower was maybe 4 kilometers north, uphill and off the trail. If I hiked fast, I could make it in 2 hours. But I couldn't leave the cub here again. Not after last night. I made a sling from my scarf and the jacket's inner lining, tied it close to my chest, and gently placed the cub inside. Its body curled slightly against the warmth. Still no resistance. You stay with me, I whispered. You're not quitting today. I started hiking. The trail was wet from the storm, and in places, it was more like a stream than a path. My boots sank into mud. Branches slapped my face. Sweat soaked my shirt within minutes. But I didn't stop. Every few minutes I looked down, checked the cub's breath. Still there. Still trying. The forest thickened the higher I went. The trees leaned in tighter. It felt like the whole place was watching. I kept my knife out, just in case. Then I saw it. Movement, maybe 30 feet ahead. Something orange. Low to the ground. A fox. It was staring right at me. No fear. Just stillness. Foxes don't usually care about humans. But this one didn't move. It looked at me, then at the bundle against my chest. Then back at me. I raised my voice. Go on. Get. It blinked slowly. Then it took a step forward. Something primal kicked in. I backed up. The cub stirred slightly against me. I kept my eyes on the fox, raised the knife higher. Not today. After a few seconds, it turned and vanished into the brush. I didn't wait. I moved faster, crashing through branches, almost running uphill. My breath burned, legs ached, but I didn't stop. Finally, just past a ridge, I saw it, the metal skeleton of the old fire tower. Rusted, silent, but still standing. My heart jumped. I climbed the steps slowly, careful not to jolt the cub. Inside, the place was a mess. Broken glass, old papers, moss growing on the floorboards. But the radio was still there. I dusted it off, flipped the switch. Nothing. I smacked the side. Still nothing. Then, static. I grabbed the mic. This is a civilian, urgent emergency. Anyone out there? I have a wounded lynx cub. It's critical. I need help. Anyone? Silence. I repeated the message. Again. Nothing. I sank to the floor, the cub still against me. My fingers were shaking. I looked out the window. The forest stretched for miles in every direction. Endless green. No roads. No signs of life. For the first time since I found the cub, I felt completely alone. I sat there for a long time. Then I looked at the cub. It was watching me, eyes more alert than before. Weak, but alive. I'm not giving up on you, I said. I stood, rewrapped the sling, and stepped out onto the stairs. If no one was coming, I'd have to go to them. I turned toward the ridge that led to the old logging road. It was far, maybe 5 or 6 kilometers, but if I made it before nightfall, maybe there'd be a truck, a hiker, something. I adjusted my pack, checked the cub one last time. Let's go. And we started walking. The trail to the old logging road was barely visible, more a memory than a path. Overgrown brush clawed at my legs. My boots squished with every step, but I didn't stop. The cub rested in the sling against my chest, its breathing shallow and slow. I kept one hand pressed gently against its back, feeling for every fragile breath. Each time its chest rose, I breathed too. Each pause felt like a lifetime. The sun was high now. The heat pressed down like a weight. I had maybe half a flask of water left. I rationed a sip for myself and dripped a few drops onto the cub's tongue. No reaction, just that soft, wet sound of its breath. I talked to it as I walked. You're doing good, kid. Just a little more. Don't quit on me. It didn't answer, of course, but saying it made me feel less alone. I passed a downed tree, then a patch of blackberries. I stopped only long enough to eat a handful. Sour, dry, but enough to keep going. Somewhere along the way, I started to limp. My knee was swelling from the strain. My shoulders ached from the sling. My hands were shaking from holding the knife too tightly for too long. But I didn't let go. I shifted the cub higher, closer to my heartbeat. It was still alive, still here. That's all that mattered. 2 hours passed. Then 3. Still no sign of the road. I started seeing things, shapes between the trees, movement that wasn't there. My thoughts blurred into each other. I kept walking because I didn't know what else to do. That's when it happened. The cub let out a sound, something like a cough, maybe a choke. Its body twitched in the sling, then went limp. No. I dropped to my knees, heart in my throat. I pulled it from the sling and cradled it in both hands. Hey, no. Come on, you're all right. You're okay. Its head lolled to the side, eyes closed. Breath, nothing. I pressed my fingers to its tiny chest. Nothing. My vision blurred. I didn't cry, not yet. I just froze. Then I did what I remembered from a wildlife rehab video I'd seen months ago. 2 fingers, gentle compressions. Mouth close to the nose. Blowing air, not too strong. Then again, and again. Then I felt it, a twitch. Then a breath. It was back. Just barely. I held it closer than ever before, both arms wrapped around it. My voice cracked when I whispered, "You scared the hell out of me." I didn't stop again. I don't remember much after that. Just the feeling of stumbling forward. My feet moved on their own. My mind was locked on one thing. Keep going. Then I saw something. A shimmer of light beyond the trees. Then a noise. A metallic clunk. I pushed through the last stretch of brush, and there it was. The road. More gravel than pavement, old and barely used, but real. And parked just a few feet away, an old green pickup truck. A man stood beside it, holding a fishing rod, loading gear into the back. I stumbled toward him. He turned. Late 60s maybe. Sun-worn face. Weary eyes. "Jesus, you all right?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just pulled back the scarf to show him. He looked down at the cub. His face changed. "Oh hell, get in. We're going." He tossed his gear aside and opened the door. I climbed in, still holding the cub. He turned the key, and the engine groaned to life. "There's a vet back in Millersville. About 20 minutes if I push it." "Go," I said. "Please." The truck rattled down the road, suspension groaning with every bump. I held the cub tighter. Its breath was barely there again. 10 minutes in, its body jerked once. Then it stopped moving. "No," I said. "Stay with me. Please." The man glanced over. Said nothing. I felt no breath. No heartbeat. My chest caved in. Then, another twitch. Just one. I didn't know if it was a reflex, or the last flicker of life. But I held on. Harder than ever. "Don't you go," I whispered. "Don't you dare go now." We hit the town limits doing 55. The old man's hands were tight on the wheel, knuckles white, eyes locked on the road like it was the only thing keeping him alive too. I held the cub in my lap, both hands wrapped around her. She wasn't moving. The air inside the truck was tense. I could hear the ticking of the turn signal even though we weren't turning. Every second felt like it was too long. The vet clinic sat just off the main street, a squat beige building with a faded blue sign. We pulled into the gravel lot so fast the truck fishtailed. The man jumped out first. "I'll get the door." "Run." I didn't even thank him. I bolted inside. The woman behind the counter looked up, startled. "She's dying," I said, my voice cracking. "Please." She was already moving, calling into the back. A vet tech rushed out, then another. They took the cub from my hands and vanished through swinging doors. And then I stood there, hands empty, chest hollow. It was the first time I'd let go in days. They didn't let me follow. I sat in the waiting room, soaked in sweat and mud, surrounded by posters about pet dental care and flea prevention. My boots dripped onto the tile. A clock ticked so loud I wanted to smash it. Minutes passed, then an hour. Finally, the door opened. A woman in scrubs stepped out. Her expression was unreadable. "She's alive," she said. I let out a sound I didn't recognize. Half laugh, half sob. "But she's very weak," the vet added. "Severe dehydration, infection, malnourishment, some nerve damage in her hind leg. Might be permanent." "Will she make it?" "We think so, but she won't survive in the wild." I nodded. I didn't care. I just needed her to live. They let me see her later that night. She was in a heated incubator, hooked to tiny 4 lines, wrapped in towels. Her breathing was steady. Her eyes fluttered open for a second. She saw me. That's when I cried. Real crying. Not from panic or fear, but from something deeper. Relief, maybe. Or just the crash of everything I'd been holding back. The next day, the vet asked what I wanted to do. "There's a wildlife rehab center an hour out," she said. They'd take her. But when I looked at the cub, at how she tried to lift her head when I came near, I knew. I'm not leaving her. She'll need care. Medication. Attention. She's not a pet. "I know," I said. "But she's not just anything anymore." They let me stay 2 more days. Taught me how to feed her with a syringe. How to clean her wounds. What to watch for. The old man even stopped by once. Brought me a clean shirt and a thermos of coffee. "You did more than most would," he said. I didn't answer. A week later, I brought her home. She was stronger by then, standing on shaky legs, eating small portions. Still no strength in the right hind leg, but she adapted. Smart. Quiet. Watching everything. She started responding to my voice, even leaning into my hand when I stroked her gently behind the ear. I named her Willow. The first night back, I set up a soft bed in the corner of my workshop. She didn't want it. Instead, she curled up on my old flannel jacket at my feet. Now, every day, I wake up and check her breathing. Every hour, I feed her. Every evening, we sit in the shop together. She watches birds through the window while I work. Sometimes she mews when she dreams. Sometimes I reach over and rest my hand on her side just to feel her alive. People say I shouldn't have brought her home, that she belongs in the wild or in a center. Maybe they're right, but I didn't find her in a center. I didn't hear her cries in a textbook. I heard them in the dirt, in the roots, in a place no one else was listening. And I listened. Maybe that's all any of us need. To be heard. Now she sleeps on my lap, breathing soft, warm, steady. I look down at her and say, "I'll never know why it had to be me. Why I was the one who found you. But I know this. Out there, deep in those trees, someone's still crying out. And not everyone gets answered. But this time, someone did."